Richard, do you want a serious background?
Have whatever sort of background you like. We may have started, we might not have.
Right, it says live now.
Right, here we go. Right, presuming we're live, welcome everybody to tonight's fantastic Facebook Live event, which is where we get to hang out with Bandicoot, including one very hairy member of Bandicoot.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello. As it's a bit like a gig, people come in late, so we're going to start by showing a video for latecomers.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and talk to these people about exciting things they're up to. So don't go away.
Enjoy.
Here is the video, which I realised now I've forgotten to line up, and I've got something else. So we were going to have, no, we weren't going to have that one.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
We weren't going to have that one.
Clever, isn't it?
We were, we're going to have the one that I can't get to because it's underneath the thing.
Oh, right. Oh, no.
Here we go.
We're going to watch this as well.
That was a live track from, was that the last gig you did before all this madness started?
Yeah,
I think it was the one before last one. That
What was the
the Newport one was the last one, wasn't
Newport one was last.
The last one was Newport, but it was nearly the last one.
it? Yeah,
last
it
but
was one
one.
of them.
Last but one.
You forget
Yeah.
about it in the live what's happened recently, but one of the bands couldn't make it because of the floods, I think.
Two of them.
wasn't
Two
We
there?
of
had
them,
Club
yeah.
Fuzz and Los Blancos couldn't come. It was going to be a great. It was still a great gig, but they were. Yeah, that was really sad. But it's still and it's crazy how many mad things happened in, like, you know, these biblical floods that made travel from Swansea to Cardiff impossible, and then, like, you know, cancelling everything for the next, I don't know, for the foreseeable future. I think live music's taken a bit of a hit lately, isn't it?
So Tom chose that track, that particular video. I wondered if you chose it because it showed the sort of momentum that was building up behind the band at that point before you were forced to stop going out to play.
I don't know. It's Tom.
That's a question.
What do you think? Is that why you chose it?
I just picked it because it was nice to remember playing gigs, really, and because it was one of the last ones. It seems to capture the chaos that we were managing to get at our live gigs, and yeah, I'm just kind of missing that.
It was kind of
The opportunity to play, and I thought it captured it well, really.
it was a bit of a strange gig, though, wasn't it, as well?
It was
Yeah,
a weird
like,
one. Very last
obviously-
minute.
Yeah, and I didn't
It's
have any
just-
of my gear.
None of us had any. Oh, well, everything was going wrong, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But it was a
sounded-
really fun gig, though, to be honest.
I think it was, yeah.
It was a great turnout as well, which we were all surprised about.
Yeah.
I think Kieran actually forgot his plectrum. I seem to remember lending him a plectrum.
Yeah.
And a bass. He didn't have his
Still got
bass.
that.
Bass, I didn't lend him a bass.
Did have my bass, pedal board, and
Because,
obviously-
that's why.
Got your pint.
Club Fuzz were bringing it down from
Yeah.
Cardiff, weren't they?
Oh, yeah.
And then they couldn't come. Yeah.
Was there a storm as well?
Well, that's
Yeah.
why it was the
Floods,
flood.
wasn't
Wasn't it? It was the floods. That's why they couldn't come.
I think I just like that video because it comes across really well, despite all the crazy things that were happening around it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's also, I mean, for us, that place, I mean, when it was the scene, we played there, you know, in like around 2015, that was where we really played all the time. And that's where we first started out as a band. I mean, not with this lineup, but me and Bill played there countless times.
It was
And
kind
was
of
it-
the start. It was the start of Bandicoot in a way, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And it was the first time me and Bill had been back there to play, at least for, I think, almost
Probably 4 or 5
4 years, about 4 years since we last played there. So it was quite a big deal, I think, for us emotionally as individuals.
So, as you were talking about the band when the band begun, and I see that some viewers have just joined us from Cambridgeshire, Ali and Jude and so on. Maybe you could explain to people who are from outside Swansea what Bandicoot's all about, who's in the band, and what you're trying to achieve. Maybe Reese wants to start with that, and then we'll move and ask other people.
Yeah. Well, it's the four of us, as you can probably guess, and it's been through a few changes. We've been me and Billy, the black-haired handsome chap, started it out, and about 7 years ago now, Bill. Can you believe it?
7.
7 years in
Getting
May.
on now.
Yeah, getting on.
Old
And
man.
we're still plugging
Still
away.
doing this thing.
But we did it for a laugh, you know, as everyone does. You know, we were 15 or 16 and we just started playing in my brother's room, and then it just kind of unexpectedly has progressed, and we found ourselves committing on pretty much all of our lives and all of our time to it, for better or for worse. But yeah, and we've grown this, I suppose, playing a lot in Swansea and getting to know other bands and getting involved in the scene. We met Tom, who played in News from Nowhere, who their music I fell in love with straight away, you know, as soon as I heard it. And then Billy started playing with them. I loved their music, and me and Tom started doing the odd thing. And then Kieran was in Vanilla, who I also loved. We all also loved. And it just came to a point where, you know, we'd need a new member, and we just asked them because we loved their music anyway, and they jumped on board, and it all happened kind of naturally without putting too much thought into it. And it's just become this very fluid, I guess, very fluid place where we can make lots of different kinds of music, and we don't feel boxed in with any one particular genre. So it's quite a I don't know. It's quite a good thing.
Very good thing. When I first returned to Swansea in 2018, you were the first band I saw that had a real buzz about them and a really exciting audience reaction and so on.
Yeah, great.
Oh, thank you.
How you said the word fluid quite a lot, as I did in my
Just
quest.
love fluids.
The
We
lineup's
just love
fluid. Is that because the sounds evolved, or why is the lineup being fluid? Is it because the sounds developing?
I think it's Bill, you go.
Oh well, I guess because of Kieran and Tom joining, that's like two completely new like angles on music in general. So it's obviously going to change it. But it's something that happens naturally, I guess, in that we don't try and force a new sound or anything.
I think from early on though as well, like we tended to have that kind of approach before, whatever member's been in the band. I think we've tended to approach music with this very open, everyone's usually had a different influence and a different input, and this tends to have produced different kinds of music. And I think at this point, especially because the way that we work as a four piece, it's just heightened that.
Yeah.
But what do you think, Kieran and Tom? Kieran likes talking about this, so let him. Kieran, what do you think about this?
About don't know.
No? What? You always like talking about this, don't you? Your influence.
Yeah, well, it's
It's all
just
about
like,
you, isn't it, Kieran?
yeah, music. I really like music, but yeah, it's just like I think
Is that
It's interesting.
Right,
Tom Blank.
Because when I met Kieran, he's worn
It's all right, boy.
bands t-shirts that I don't really connect with the sound that Bandicoot makes so much, as in Cramps t-shirt,
Yeah.
possibly a Crass t-shirt I've seen him in. So you bring a sort of more punky edge to it, would you say, Kieran?
Yeah, well, I've always kind of had a punk background with like kind of with my other bands and stuff, like the DIY.
Kieran's the one who jumps off amps and things.
Yeah,
we
I
can't.
think
We
It's a
don't
really
have to
cool one.
He's the young, flexible one that can like do.
He's
flex.
the 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we
but
need a bit of energy in our older years.
Oh,
So
it's
Tom,
just more like
the live performance is quite important to what Bandicoot is altogether.
I think
think so.
lately, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
ever since I've been in the band, but don't know.
I think it always. I mean,
Yeah,
we spend more time on stage than we have in studios. Although I think we're increasingly becoming like a lot more invested in the studio since we're making the albums and stuff.
yeah, especially with Tom Reese from Buzzard, like we can actually kind of be self-indulgent in the studio.
mhm.
Okay.
So people who don't know who I am or why I'm asking all these questions, I run a fanzine called Repeat for far too long. And one question we used to have was describe your sound to a deaf alien. But maybe I could rephrase that question.
Oh, thank you.
Describe your sound to somebody, an aging punk rocker who's just arrived back from Cambridge. Can you describe your sound to people who are watching that don't know what you're like? Anybody?
I don't know.
Um,
I think the other, Tom and Kieran are usually better at doing that because they're newer to it. we've been doing it for so long. I don't even know what the hell we're doing.
I think at the moment, like it's like song by song, kind of like basis
I guess
what we're actually.
It's just kind of like pop songs, but with random bursts of noise
what's happened to him?
and stuff like that. I guess.
I personally, at least speaking in terms of like the album that we're making now, took a lot of influence. I mean, I loved like the Boy Zuger album, and I listened a lot to Davey talking about it in various interviews and stuff. And the way he put it captured it quite well for me in terms of the way that he wanted to put a lot of his influence, his own personal influences, represent that range of influence on a record. And I think for us, it ranges mostly from, I don't know, post-punky stuff like and krautrock stuff that we've been getting into a lot, like Noi and Can, that kind of psychedelia with stuff, I suppose conventional indie stuff like REM and Smiths, the kind of delicacy and the melody focus of like Radiohead and the rhythm and the energy of Talking Heads and those kind of bands, trying to merge all of that and express that in the form of an album. I guess that's usually the best way of putting it, really. Just putting all these different influences that we've got. And I mean, that's how everyone does it, really, isn't it? But it's just
Yeah.
that everyone's different. But I mean, it's broadly, I mean, we've been getting a lot into kind of early 70s rock and stripping everything back and having, you know, not being afraid to use, you know, stripped back arrangements, using pianos, using keyboards, using clarinets. Even we've got clarinets on the album, and you know, just trying to be as experimental and as brave, I suppose, musically as we can. And there are some songs that we've done. I mean, there's some like Siren that we've only played a few times live, but it's gone on the album, and it's something that literally it was such a monster to write that it kind of started to scare me, you know, playing it, because it was such a hard song to play and it was just so complex and so wild. But we kind of pushed ourselves to write it, and we ended up, you know, having a song that was sort of playable and containable. And it was, I don't know, going from that place of like being kind of scared of a song, like what the potential the song has is kind of mental, and then just powering through it and creating something out of it. I feel like that was a big breakthrough, that song, I think, in terms of the rest of the album. We think like once we'd written that song, we were like, well, we can literally do anything now, because that was quite a challenge to do.
Yeah. I think with kind of like the difference between, you know, like this lineup between like comparing to the others is kind of like, obviously I think the straightforwardness of it, like you were saying.
Yeah,
Like,
being as direct as possible in our writing, I think has been a massive learning curve, and something that we've been able to do with this lineup a lot more than we had done before. I think things were a lot looser and much more improvisational before, and not necessarily in a good way. I think we've managed to like control that improvisational thing and actually put it into a, you know, something that we can represent and re-represent and recreate on stage without it just being kind of too chaotic and too like, you know, just too formless. You know, we've managed to kind of capture that better than we've ever done before. So I think it's going well.
It's also really nice to have the like realization that you can literally do anything you want. I think before we've been kind of restricting ourselves to one or two genres, but now we're just starting to realize, like, if it sounds good, if we think it sounds good and we think, you know, it'll be a good song, just do it. We shouldn't be like restricted to indie or rock.
I think
just
like
to see how things progress, really, isn't it?
Yeah, just like the range of influences between the four of us. It's
Yeah.
quite like we all don't. There's like obviously some middle ground, but we are off in completely different directions.
And also, we should probably mention Tom Reese's influence as well. Tom from Buzzard has been producing the album, and has really just believed, kind of enabled us to believe a lot more in the music that we've been making, and just, you know, he's had a lot of confidence in us, I think, and has kind of given us the space to create the stuff that we've been doing, which was really important, I think, to have that kind of influence.
But we just trust Tom with kind of like,
and I think that's been a big deal. Because I mean, like a lot of the songs that are on the album, I kind of did on a you know, over the last couple of years, just written while I was away at uni, and the forms that they were in, bringing them to the band were just kind of bare, you know, acoustic guitar or piano or whatever, and they having these three other guys to, you know, have their input into it, and to, you know, when they touch it, it's just become this massive thing that there's so much, you know, goes beyond what I could have done myself, and it's just turned into a completely different beast. And these songs have progressed and changed completely, and that's all you can ask for, really. I think just bringing a song to a few people and just having them transform it and give it the potential that it, you know, realize the potential that it has, and doing that effortlessly, you know, that's a great feeling. It's just all you can ask for, really, from a band.
So what we might do now is watch the video for one of your older songs, Pongo, that Tom suggested. While we're doing that, if anybody wants to send any questions in, that would be great. Also, this is a free service, this exciting interview. But if you want to donate to the crowdfunder to fund the album, right at the top of the page on your device should be a link to the crowdfunder.
That would be great. Thanks.
Does anyone want to tell us anything about Pongo while I line it up?
Yeah, this was an old song, really, and yeah, it's from a different time in our lives as a band, I suppose. So it's nice listening to it, and it's still something that we like playing live, I think. And the video's fun, you know. I suppose it's from quite an innocent young phase in our lives, I guess. And I suppose we're still, you know.
Right, here we go then. I'll be on the to start with as usual. Any second now.
Stop nattering.
Oh, sorry, I've messed up. I'll do it now. Any second now.
Any second now.
Tell that again. Tell us that again. You know, I've got it. Don't panic, anybody.
Wait, let me give you a clap for that. Where is it? There you go.
You've given yourself a clap.
Bongo,
Sorry, I have no idea.
Wait.
Oscar?
Let's go. Oh, this was made by Conor McLaughlin as well.
Nice, excellent. So people who've just joined us, we're here talking to Bandicoot, and it's interesting seeing who's watching. It's a lot of people from East Anglia watching. For instance, Jay Volunteer from a fantastic hardcore band called The Volunteers is watching. So hi, Jay, all the way from Bury St Edmunds, Rock City. So that song there was from 2017, wasn't it? Would you say it's the one that launched you to being one of the, perhaps the biggest band in Swansea, would you say? Anybody want to answer that? Tom can answer that.
I don't know about. I mean, if you start saying that about yourself,
It's not a competition anyway, is it?
No.
No.
it's you messed up really. But
So actually, my question wasn't that. My question was, how are you going to get beyond being a big band in a smallish town into something a bit more well known? I think that was what my question really is.
well, we're moving to Cardiff in the summer, so hopefully we'll be playing Cardiff more and trying to get our album onto a label and stuff like this when it's done.
Yep. Yep.
Sorry, my audio is cutting out a lot, so it's a bit
Your
hard.
audio is cutting out on us as well, so you'll have to do it through the medium of dance, okay? all your answers can be done.
He's good at that.
Dance.
I don't mind. I'll just listen. I don't mind.
You can interrupt at any point, and then we'll ignore you. No, do wave your hand around if you want to say something. Reece, did you want to say how because you seem to get quite big crowds in Cardiff as well. I mean, do you intend to be playing in London and so on, do what English bands do and trek down to Camden every weekend, or what's your plan?
Reece, you're muted.
Sorry, there we go. Hello.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, as Tom said, we're moving to Cardiff. It's a bit, it's hard to know exactly. I mean, yeah, that's the direction I suppose we want to be heading, and we want to pull crowds anywhere really and everywhere. But
yeah, I think
for us personally at the moment, we've just been trying to make this album, and once that is done, then we'll see where we are and what happens, and keep playing bigger and bigger gigs. And I think every now and then we reach a nice landmark. Like October we did a really great show in Club Iverbach. It was our first headline there in Cardiff. We were meant to be playing Focus Wales this year, which has been reorganised for October. And there's a few, we had another headline in Cardiff. So we're just kind of stepping that way, trying to get bigger shows with bands that we love and trying to get further and further in the scene. But I think the priority has just definitely been just making the music and trying to get as much money saved to actually make that possible.
yeah.
You've already hinted a bit about the new album that you're working on.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to tell us a bit about how it's different, for instance, from Pongo?
It's a different world, isn't it, really?
It's very different. In fact, I'm glad. And then the next two we've got, because they really show the progression, I think, through the lineups as I joined and Kieran joined, and then also stylistically, it's just changed quite a lot. I think the it's got much more of a dark sort of sound to it in a way. It's got a much broader range of influences. I think it's quite a mature album as well, in my opinion.
I think
to the old Bandicoot stuff, even though I wasn't in that. But
the main thing that separates Pongo from the new material is a handful of personal crises, which drastically stripped me of my innocence and our innocence, and led to some interesting themes.
Yeah, I think it's quite a introspective and quite not dark, but it has its like quite uplifting.
There are some. I think it's balanced really nicely by these like dark and light moments, and we haven't settled on a name yet, and we haven't got our work ready yet. But there's like an unexpected amount of reference to like times of day and light and shadows and darkness and the conflict and contrast between all of these things. But I mean, also a lot of it is defined by the influences that we had. At that age, how that song's about 3 years old now, I think, or 4 years old, and we just loved Blur, and we loved 90s kind of Britpop and proper indie stuff. We were proper indie kids, which is fine.
For yourself,
well, I was all right. Fine, I was. Shut up. All right, and so that's we wrote a song that sounded a bit like that, I guess. It's very Blur, which we're not like that anymore. We don't really we just have a greater breadth and coming back to having new members, we're just going to sound different because we've got 2 completely new people in the band. but there's enough of us to hang on to that element of things, I think, to make it sound like it's not like it doesn't, it sounds like us, and it sounds like elements of the Pongo era and even earlier than that. But it's just changed in a really natural, authentic way.
So has the record deal that you've got, has that helped you achieve this?
Well, I mean, the record deal that we had with Bicker it was great. So we basically did it for a single at a time, a song at a time.
Oh, right, okay.
It's not a long-term thing.
Right.
But it definitely gave us a leg up with, because we before we'd make a song or a few songs and chuck it out and just see what happened to it. Bicker got us on, because we were making Welsh language music, which we started doing. Bicker got us on the Welsh label scene and got us onto Pissed, and even just simple distributing things like that, and got us on Played by Hugh Stevens and things like that, which make, for us, they were massive. Trying to get Played by Hugh Stevens was impossible before, and now it just kind of happens because we had a label. So things like that were really, really helpful, and it just gave us a bit of a boost, confidence-wise and direction-wise. And we're like, okay, we have some kind of structure in which to work, So
Bicker using a Welsh language, would you say that has become an important part of yourselves as well, being bilingual, proudly bilingual? Is that an important facet of the band?
Yeah,
us,
it is.
As people, like most of the band, I know Tom has some sort of bilingual-ish thing, but it's just like us as people, we are bilingual. It's a part of our identity. So I think
it is. Yeah. But also, like, we haven't thought too much about it. I don't think it's not like we've suddenly become a Welsh language band. I think, like, because we don't feel like we're trying to resist this thing where like every song has to be a bit of Welsh in it for the sake of it. We just wrote those songs and they had Welsh in them, either entirely or partially or some of it, because we found it useful in the way that we were writing. I don't like the idea of jumping on the bandwagon, and I hope
it's just whatever's whatever's right for the song. I think if you write a song and it feels like it could be a Welsh language song, that it can be. You never push it in.
Yeah, but again, it comes down to influence as well, because
just for the sake of it, would you?
I was listening to a lot of Gorky's Zygotic Monkey and Super Furry Animals, and it really had a big influence on me, the way that they were merging those two languages together, particularly Gorky's. There's a line in one of the Gorky songs, I can't remember what it's called, but there's a line in it that goes, "Weithia ma things and min too far," which is like a weird jumbling up of lines. It's like sometimes things go too far, but it's got like Welsh words in it. And that line is just stuck with me as soon as I heard it. I was like, that is an amazing use of language there to merge these weird, these casual phrases together from different languages. So things like that we just started doing. But again, like we did them because they worked as expressions, and they were just natural, authentic things that we were learning to do. And I sort of realized that you could say things in Welsh more effectively than you could in English in certain instances. Welsh language, it just allowed you to say things that would sound cliche or normal or unremarkable and kind of meaningless in English. But when you put them into Welsh, they had this kind of power that excited me, and still does. But you don't want to overuse that. You don't need to overuse that, because both languages are really fruitful and brilliant, and are kind of both big parts of our lives. We don't live in a particularly Welsh part of Wales, but we're fluent in both languages. So it's kind of, there's a certain conflict definitely between them, I think. But it's definitely in the last couple of years become a big part of our identity. Yeah, for sure.
Well, you've already answered my next question, because I was going to ask you how aware you were of bands such as that were around when I was starting the fans.
Yeah.
In fact,
you mentioned.
There you go. You can't see it. There's an interview with Gorky Psychotic Monkey I did.
Oh, really? Oh, that's amazing.
1995. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, that's great.
Someone's going to say something about one of the Welsh language bands, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the ones you mentioned was Flaps, and I went to university in Bangor, and Alan Holmes, the bassist in Flaps, was a very active figure on the scene. And he was quite inspiring when I was a younger student in Bangor. And I think he actually produced the first two Gorky's albums for them as well. But he's quite an inspiring.
Because they were from a
Big
generation
attention,
before Super
He's
Furries.
just
Yes.
yeah, because Flaps toured Eastern Europe and stuff in the late 70s and early 80s, and they were taking Welsh language music from all these different countries, and I think they were quite an important band, really.
Yeah.
And Reese likes Dat Bluggy a lot as well, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, I heard of Dat Bluggy through Super Furries because I loved their cover of A Tame Lad, which is on Mung, and I listened to that and it just blew me away. And then I listened to the Dat Bluggy one and that blew me away. And then found Dat Bluggy through them, really. But yeah, they just opened a new world and a new mode of expression, because I often found myself getting in ruts, and I guess it was quite an effective way of getting out of writer's block. And sometimes you'll be in a writer's block for English, or you'll be in a writer's block for Welsh, and you can just flip to the other language, and just sometimes something will come out of it. Sometimes it won't, but it's an alternative way of writing, I suppose.
So now we're going to watch Being Erased. Does anybody want to say anything about that before I put it on?
God, we've made some songs, haven't we?
Not so much to say about that one. when did we do that one? It was like 2018.
2018. This was actually quite an important one. We haven't been playing it much lately because we've kind of moved on from it. But it was big. It was quite a big song for us because we were going through another of these transitions, from member to member, and it just felt kind of, I don't know. It was.
I think we were really excited to change things up a bit.
Yeah. It was a new way of writing for me, I think, that I found worked. And it was the first time I kind of used, like, there's a few lines that I nicked from poems, Wallace Stevens poems, but I used like poetry as like a real good influence that stayed. I don't know, just play the song and maybe we'll talk about it.
You can think what the answer is. Here we go.
I haven't listened to this in ages.
It disappeared before my very eyes. All the time that never was. Everything rose up from the dust. I'll be praised.
Blinders Pit.
Excellent. That was Being Erased. And we're here talking to members of Bandicoot for another few minutes. If you just joined us, welcome as people from, I've noticed some Swansea people joining us, and also more people from Cambridge as well. We've got Zach from Swansea, I believe. Bones all the way from Cardiff. He's just missed you saying that you're all going to move to Cardiff, so he'll be delighted to hear that.
Oh, good.
So there we go. You better go and watch them. And Ewan from Cambridge, and some other people don't know, so that's good news.
Croeso, hello.
I do apologise if I've not said your name. So I was going to do, if it's all right with you guys, a few quick fire questions.
Yeah.
Watch your video right at the end. If you have joined us, it is a free public service, but if you want to donate to the new album, which has obviously been hit by lack of gigs, there's a crowdfunding link in the description of this event at the top of the page, or possibly the bottom of the page, depending which way up you're sitting. Right, here's a few more questions. Who, and you can all answer this if you want to just quick fire, who are your heroes and heroines, musical, political, artistic, literary, sporting, any other way? Who wants to go first? Tom, do you want to go first before your internet cracks up? It's already cracked up.
Tom, can you?
Bob Dylan, Woody Guthrie, Dylan Thomas, Jeremy Corbyn.
Jeremy Clarkson.
Excellent, good three there. Kieran.
Marky Smith, Lou Barlow, Lou Reed, and King Gordon. No.
Reese.
John Lennon, R.S. Thomas,
Love them.
Mark Hollis.
And Benny.
It's a tricky one. Frank Black, Kurt Cobain, and Tom Hanks.
Right, this question I'm going to go the other way around, so that Tom gets longer to think and Billy gets no time to think at all. If there was a fantasy music festival, which three bands, current or dead, past, would you like to support or to support you? So, three bands with music. So Billy first, please.
Well, obviously, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, because I'm just obsessed with those guys. REM, and it's gonna have to be Nick Drake.
Interesting.
It would be Radiohead, Talk Talk and Plastic Ono Band.
Oh, interesting. There we go. Kieran.
The Fall, Black Sabbath, and then probably Miles Davis,
Ooh,
like
What a
78.
range of
Yes.
influences, yeah.
70s.
70s. Like the Isle of Wight lineup.
And Tom, if you're receiving us.
Yeah. Mine would be King of Despair, with this obscure Swansea band who made an incredible album called Harpoon, which everyone should check out because they're one of my favorite bands.
Quick fire, Tom.
Big Thief and Elliott Smith as well.
Thank you. Excellent. Next question is for anybody who's got other musical projects they'd like to talk about. Like, I know a lot of you are in other bands such as Vanilla and News from Nowhere. Tom, you'll tell us a little bit about News from Nowhere, what you're doing at the moment. I think you're working on a new album as well, because I've heard bits of it.
The News from Nowhere album is almost done. We're just getting it mixed and mastered now. So that'll be out maybe in a few months. It's hard to know at the moment because of all this crazy stuff that's happening. Yeah, News from Nowhere is just a band that I've always done since I was about 14, and that's been a very long time, and that's had a very fluid lineup as well. And Billy plays in that too, and Reese has done a little bit. So it's almost more of a collective than a band, but we've done a lot of albums. But yeah, I'm really happy with the new one. And actually, we did that with Tom, Buzzard Tom, as well. So it's kind of like the two albums were made alongside each other across the same year, really. So it's quite nice in that way.
Yeah, they kind of like complement each other.
It sounds amazing.
So
It sounds
I
really
think that's
good.
quite cool in a way.
Amazing album.
Sounds great.
Kieran, do you want to tell us a bit about what Vanilla are up to? Because
Obviously we were supposed to play those gigs for their flexi release, but obviously COVID-19. But other than that, just been, I think we just had a few practices. I don't think there was anything in their pipeline really.
people who don't know, Record Store Day, there was a fantastic bendy green flexi planned, which is here. It keeps disappearing. It is very flexy, as you can see. That was planned with a track by Vanilla on it, as well as 3 other bands. That's had to be postponed because the Record Store Day has been postponed. So that's what Kieran's talking about then. Reece, any other musical things you're involved with?
I just made a solo album, kind of by accident, really. I just kind of had all these songs and recorded them, and I put that on SoundCloud a couple of days ago, which is a new weird thing for me to do. They're kind of Bandicoot songs that were too kind of personal or stripped back or just didn't quite fit the band. And I just kind of, recorded them at home on a 4-track and just stuck them up as they are. So anyone can listen to that if you just on my SoundCloud. That's been a nice thing to do. I've enjoyed that. So yeah, people have responded nicely.
And Billy, have you got anything to add to the news from Nowhere?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for this album to come out. It's sounding great. Obviously, we don't know when it's going to be released yet, which has been made harder by all this. But yeah, it's sounding really good. We just need to fix up on the old mixing.
Bill's been doing his own stuff as well, then.
Yeah, I've got a few tracks on the way. I mean, they're just the rough demos, really, but I'm really enjoying just like messing around on the guitar. I'm starting to do some with singing as well, which I'm terrible at, but I'm practicing, which is the main thing.
That's great.
Thanks, man. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's just even more. I'm not saying band isn't like it's not free in band. Like you don't have the freedom, obviously you do. But I guess it's always good to have time to yourself to kind of reflect on what you like musically and try and work on that, and then that'll be put into band like that. Those ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
Even if they don't get used, like they'll still be put towards something, I guess.
Yeah, I think with all of us, we do have other means of expression, like outside of the band. So
yeah,
I think it's think it's just like this unwritten rule between us all,
Yeah,
just to create as much as we can.
yeah.
Oh yeah, me and Reese have done a few little acoustic songs as a different thing as well, which you can find on SoundCloud. That's Emlyn Underdown we do that as, but that's just
Yeah.
something that kind of came along, which we didn't really plan, and they're just little SoundCloud.
It was like it was another kind of it was another kind of accidental thing where we just kind of Tom would come over at some point last year. There was a period of a few weeks where Tom would come over, and we'd be doing Bandicoot stuff, but it was like whenever we were about to do something, he was like, "Let's just warm up by writing a song," and then we did that about 4 or 5 times, and ended up with like I guess like a mini album of songs, which sound really cool and really different, and they're quite Beatlesy and quite Kinksy, and yeah, we put a few of them out, so there'll be a few more to come, I think, later on. But it's just been nice, like in the last year, doing stuff that isn't Bandicoot, and that's just helped Bandicoot with its own writing and its own freedom, as Billy was saying. Like it all contributes to this like flourishing of musical ideas that's going on all the time, and this idea that we can just do whatever we want within the band as well. So it's been a great year for kind of writing productivity.
So you've done all this writing. How do you think the lockdown is going to affect the music scene and yourselves?
So hard to tell, really, isn't it?
It's hard to tell. Personally and selfishly, I've enjoyed it because, as I say, I've like been able to finish off recordings and I've written a few things. But yeah, I mean, it depends how long it goes on for, isn't it? I mean, you're kind of aware of this like chaos that's going on around you, but I feel very much detached from it. You know, it's hard to really feel, you know, the extent of the suffering and the, you know, suffering that people are facing outside. And I'm very grateful to be like as comfortable as I am. But it's hard also not to feel kind of relief and pleasure in just being able to do things that you've been meaning to do for ages. So it's a really strange time.
So how do you think people can support the local music scene and the national music scene so that it's still there after this finishes, whenever it does? What's the best way to support the artists and venues and so on, in your opinion?
I guess just go to as many gigs as you possibly can that are actually happening. I know that'll be quite hard for a lot of people because obviously they'll have a lack of money because they haven't been working. So
I mean, like we're doing things like we set up this GoFundMe campaign, which is, you know, we didn't expect to get the amount that we've had already, which has been really, really kind of heartening. But also, like we're selling merch. We're about to get a new batch of new design T-shirts, which look really cool. Just buying merch and streaming the music and showing support online, and you know, I guess just generally showing support in those ways.
But it's just like being proactive with. You don't have to put money towards it. You can just share these things.
Yeah, just giving people like a stream, show that they're enjoying.
It does make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just don't forget about us, I suppose. Really,
Please.
we're here, even if the world isn't. You know, we're still doing.
So before we play the last video, just a very serious question that I've asked for like 24 years or something. What's best, chips or cream buns?
Chips.
Chips, definitely.
Chips. Can't be bad.
Chips.
Yeah, everyone, that's the right answer. Right. So we're finishing with, I think,
I do like both, but then you know it's the bourgeoisie option or the proletariat option. You know, I don't want to be like Mary.
So we're finishing, I think, with the.
I'm going to go chips.
Most recent single, isn't it? What can you tell us about that? The video filmed along Mumbles and so on.
It was great. I enjoyed it. It was freezing cold.
It was funny because none of the instruments were plugged in except all you could hear was the drum.
Yeah, it was really hard to
basically just like pounding across the beach, and just all these old people and like family like looking in a confused way from the pier.
They kept asking us questions as well.
They kept asking us like who we were, what we were doing.
Yeah, they were just like, "Oh, are you in a band? What's your band called?" Someone was like, "Oh, it's the Beatles."
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Oh yeah, someone said it was the Beatles. I did kind of feel like we were playing on the rooftop of Abbey Road or whatever. Where was it? No, it was the Apple shop.
Apple, Studios.
What about the song itself? What can you tell us about the song?
Well,
Actually, I remember I was very, very hungover though.
Yeah, the song was the first one that me and it was like the first co-written Bandicoot song that me and Tom did, and like the first like Welsh English bilingual stuff that we did, because we translated English lyrics of Tom's for the chorus and for the title, and realized that Secondhand Rain sounds really cool in Welsh and it rhymes, and it like, so that was quite a big one actually for us, because it was like a real change of direction.
Came about in a very playful way, and then having two singers was quite a new thing to a band, and that was kind of quite a cool thing, because you had this dialogue between the two languages going on in some sort of way, and that kind of happened by accident, but yeah, the co-writing gave it a lot of life, I think, and that's
right. Thank you. So if nobody's got anything else to say, I'm going to play the video, and then that'll be the end. Thanks everyone who's been watching and sending messages in. If you want to support the band, don't forget there's the crowdfunding link at the top of the page. If you came late to the party, this will be on the repeat Facebook page for you to watch at your leisure, and then we'll test you about it later. Right. Anybody got anything else to say? If not, we'll say goodbye.
Hwyl fawr, Cariad.
Hwyl fawr, pawb.
Well, Richard, thank you.
Thanks,
thank you,
thanks
Richard.
for having us.
You're welcome. I'll still be there.
Thanks for having us.
Here we go. Oh, there we go.
There we go.